Hello, friends. I had decided and even informed you that I'm going to talk about strategy starting from today. However, there has been a change in plan. Over the past few weeks, I have been involved in certain challenges that some friends or a family couple who had a business associate who had challenges and was helping them to sort out the same. And what I found out of all those four cases that I have been involved in is that in today's world, the biggest challenge is the trust crisis. And it kept me awake all of last night. And that is why today, early morning, I decided that today I am going to talk about trust, specifically about the trust crisis. Let me give you a little background of where I come from. Okay. Trust, as we all know, is when we can believe in someone and whom we can rely on, where they will do what they say they will, where they will live up to their word. If they say this is ours, it is ours and not theirs alone. Okay. And this is true in respect of a social relationship or a business relationship. And trust is very crucial part of this thing. We shall look at how to build trust and how to manage trust in the next episode on Friday. But today, what I'm going to talk about is to give you examples of why I made this sudden decision to change the topic for today and day after tomorrow's episodes. As I said, there is a severe trust deficit. In the first instance, let me give you an example where I knew two cases of siblings fighting. Okay. And the siblings are fighting over things that are actually, according to me, of no consequence. Okay. They're fighting for petty amounts, which are really change compared to what they have inherited. And yet they insist on fighting about it to the extent that the siblings don't talk to each other. And all this is only because of two factors. One is ego, which they cannot put aside or burn. And the second is because for all of them, money, no matter how significant or insignificant it is. In fact, I have found that when that money is insignificant, people fight more. They have enough to live on, they have everything, but yet they keep fighting. So in this case, what happens? I will give you another example. I know of a couple. Okay. And well, they're not brilliantly rich. Okay. Or rather, they are brilliantly rich, though not monetarily that rich. And they've got some savings. Now, what happens is when you say our savings, but when one of the partners treats it as his or her own saving, and in times of need, that money is not available to the family, this leads to severe distrust. In another case I know of, I am talking of two partners in a business. Okay. They had plenty of challenges. Fortunately, in that case, money was not one of the challenges. Ego was there, but that was something that could be explained and well understood because both of them were willing to accept reality. And that was one problem that we resolved. The first two problems were not resolved. And then in today's times, all of you who are especially in India and are following the political scenario in India would have seen that there is an immense amount of distrust that has been built by every single politician who's there in the campaigning arena. They talk, they talk during the campaign on things that are not really consequential. And even for people who trust them, people who appreciate what they have contributed for the growth of India, start disbelieving them. That trust factor is getting eroded. Okay. Now, what happens in the first two cases is that the ego is always there, but when they make money their God, and the surprising part is that both the cases that I'm talking of, they are, or they claim to be very religious, and they do practice a lot of the physical religious norms that they are supposed to adhere to. But when it comes to plain simple humanity, integrity, there seems to be a severe drought in these cases. So don't make money your God. That's the worst thing you can do, and that leads to challenges all across the place. In the third case, which was of two businesses, there was an ego. One guy is good at marketing, and therefore he would not let the other person interact with the customers. And when we sat down together and we talked about the strengths and weaknesses, which they themselves wrote, they did their own SWOT analysis. And well, luckily they were both truthful. And the guy who was not good at marketing did agree that he is not capable of going unsupervised. So what we agreed is that, okay, the guy who is good will always take his partner along. Becomes a difficult thing because the cost doubles and there's nobody to look after hold the fort, so to say, when they're on a marketing tour. So as politics is concerned, why would you want to get into a situation where you don't talk about your strengths, which are so immense that they can really take you through? It'll be a smooth sailing for you. But no, they want to get into a rhetoric on various other topics, which make people like me lose the trust. So, two things that you need to do without fail, because they are big trust destroyers, is to burn your ego. And the second important thing is do not, I repeat, do not make money your God. Making money your God will destroy all kinds of relationships, not only between siblings, not only between husband and wife, but even between business partners, if that happens. As I said, luckily in the case that I was involved in, okay, that was not the case. Money was not the problem. Okay, and this is one partnership I know where they have enough money and they are just willing to overlook. Okay, like even when we said that, okay, it's going to increase your cost and all, they didn't bother. But when we said, okay, who's going to hold the fort back home? That's when both of them said, okay, how are we doing it? So trust is critical, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a relationship you are there by virtue of you being born in that family between siblings, but it is friendships. I know so many friendships that have gone flat because of trust issues. Even interaction with strangers. By default, we trust people. Now, when they don't live up to it, we get hurt. And if that happens often enough, we start distrusting strangers. Okay, and we've seen this happen in society. I'm sure all of you have seen this happen. And that's not a great sign. Okay, so when all of this is there and when trust is so critical, how can we ever ignore it? Because the way I see it, society as a whole would fail, would crumble, would collapse if there is no trust between people. Trust is that critical a component of life. And therefore, it is immensely necessary that you maintain the trust. And as I said, I'm repeating this often enough because I have found, I was awake, as I said, all of last night. And these are the two things I zeroed on, that if these two things are removed from your habits or from your personality traits or whatever you want to call it, trust factor would be rising immensely and there will be less challenges all over the world. Whether you take a geopolitical war, that's because trust is there. Whether you take politics, as I was telling, trust is important. Whether you take a husband-wife relationship, trust is important. And whether you take a relationship between siblings, trust is important. So burn your ego, make sure that you do not make money your God. Money is important, but look at the family, look at the relationships more than just looking at the money. Okay, just because you are sitting on money, which belongs to, say, siblings, it belongs to the family, to all the brothers and sisters who are there in the family. Or in a husband and wife relationship, it belongs to both the husband, the wife, and the children. When it is like this, don't make money your God. Don't sit on what you have, but be fair and do things as one would be expected to do. Okay. So, how do you maintain the trust? The first and simple rule that I think of, and I've said this in other references also, walk the talk. Okay. Do what you say. If you don't mean to do it, if you don't mean it, don't say it. Because it's going to get caught, it's going to put you in a trap at some time or the other. So walk the talk. And always when taking a decision or a judgment, put yourself in the other person's shoes and see how you would like to be dealt with. And then you act accordingly. And always be very, very honest in every single thing. Honesty and integrity will take you a long, long way. And that's what's going to help you. Okay. Also, trustworthiness is important because it defines a person's moral character. Okay. If you are one that one cannot trust, then your moral character, no matter how religious a person you are, is not worth anything. Okay. So it's not just trustworthiness. There are many other things that go into your moral character, like honesty, courage, integrity, your fairness. All of these things matter, but trust is the most critical. And if you behave with integrity, if you do what you say, others will automatically trust you. And when others trust you, trust me, your relationships go to not just the next level, they go many levels up. I mean, imagine my immense pleasure when this friend of mine, whom I met, I think maybe about 2 weeks back, after sending him a few of my links, he just one day sends me a simple message: you are building trust. I mean, I was thrilled because over the years, at this age, I know how important trust is. And if I can build trust, there is nothing better that I can do. And that relationships, all my relationships, if I am trustworthy, are going to bloom. They're not just going to thrive, they're going to bloom. Okay. So if you want a healthy relationship, trust is a very important and critical element of it. So make sure that you remain trustworthy. If the people that I have been talking about are listening to it, especially in the first two cases where I said we have not been able to resolve the challenges, if you're listening to this, please give it a thought. Please think about it. And please act on it and do what is right. Burn your ego and don't make money hard. If you don't go to a temple, no problem. But as long as you're human, honest, full of integrity and fairness, you're doing a much better job than going to a temple and praying to God. Because God says, please be honest. Okay. So, having said that, I think I will end today's session. In the next session on Friday, I am going to talk about how one can build trust and how one can maintain trust. And then the week after that, I shall go back to my original plan of talking on strategy. So if you enjoyed today's talk, if you think this talk has put something in your mind which is going to help you to build healthier and more long-lasting relationships, please do send me a message. I'd love to hear from you on this topic. And maybe it'll help me to sleep a good night's sleep today. Thank you very much. And please have a great time.